Table 7 needs their check. The restaurant manager's voice barely registered as Rashid Al-Mansour stood frozen in the entrance of the Brass Lion, one of Chicago's most prestigious steakhouses. His briefcase slipped from his fingers, hitting the marble floor with a sharp crack that made nearby diners turn. But Rashid couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't look away from the young waitress carrying a tray of dishes across the elegant dining room. The same delicate bone structure, the same graceful way of moving. Even that distinctive dimple on her right cheek when she smiled at customers, a smile he hadn't seen in 15 years. It was impossible, completely, utterly impossible. The 49-year-old Syrian-American tech entrepreneur whose artificial intelligence company was valued at $1.3 billion felt the room spin. For 15 years, he had searched for his missing daughter. 15 years of FBI investigations, international searches, and rewards that had grown from thousands to millions of dollars. And now, there she was, or someone devastatingly identical, serving prime rib to business executives just blocks from his Michigan Avenue office. "Sir, do you have a reservation?" The hostess was speaking to him, but Rashid barely heard her. The young woman, maybe 20 years old, had turned in his direction. For one heart-stopping moment, their eyes met. Something flickered across her face. Not recognition exactly, but something deeper. A shadow of confusion, as if she'd felt a strange pull she couldn't explain. "I need a table," Rashid managed, "in that section." He pointed to where the young waitress had disappeared into the kitchen. The hostess smiled knowingly. "Ah, Maya's section. She's one of our best servers. Right this way." Maya, not Layla Al-Mansour, the name his daughter had carried when she vanished at age 5 during a bitter divorce that had turned into a nightmare. The scarred truth. "Good evening, sir. My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with something to drink?" Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. Rashid's hands trembled as he gripped the menu. The dimple. The unusual amber flecks in her dark brown eyes, a genetic trait from his grandmother's side. And there, barely visible on her left wrist, a small crescent-shaped scar. He knew that scar. He remembered the exact moment Layla had gotten it, reaching for a seashell on a beach in Dubai when she was 4. He'd rushed her to the hospital, held her tiny hand while they stitched it, promised her it would heal perfectly. "Sir, are you all right?" Maya had leaned forward slightly, genuine concern replacing her professional smile. "You look pale. How long have you worked here?" The question came out hoarse. Maya's professional mask wavered. "About 2 years. Sir, if you're not feeling well, were you adopted?" The words hung in the air like an accusation. Maya stepped back, her face hardening. "That's an incredibly inappropriate question. I'm going to ask the manager." "Please." Rashid stood up, nearly knocking over his chair. Other diners were starting to stare. "That scar on your wrist. Do you know how you got it?" Maya's hand instinctively went to the small crescent mark. For a moment, her composure cracked. "My parents said it was from before they adopted me. I was found in a church parking lot when I was 6. No memories, no identification." "In Detroit? July 2010? Maya went completely still. "How did you know that?" "Because my daughter disappeared in Detroit in July 2010, during a custody exchange. She was 5 years old." Rashid fumbled in his wallet. "Please, just look at my card, search my name. You'll find articles about my missing daughter." Maya took the card with trembling fingers. Rashid Al-Mansour, CEO, Al-Mansour Technologies. "Denny's on Clark Street," she whispered. "Midnight. Come alone." The investigation. Rashid didn't go alone. He called Nadia Hassan, the former FBI agent who'd led the initial investigation and had since become a private investigator focused exclusively on his daughter's case. "You need to be careful," Nadia insisted. "We've had dozens of false leads over the years." "She has the scar, Nadia, the exact scar. And she was found in Detroit the same month Layla disappeared." Silence. Nadia knew how specific those details were. At midnight, Rashid sat in the nearly empty Denny's, trying to control his shaking hands. Maya arrived exactly on time, now wearing jeans and a DePaul University sweatshirt. She looked younger, more vulnerable. "I Googled you," she said, sliding into the booth. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "Everything. The missing daughter case, the reward money, the yearly press conferences. She pulled out her phone, showed him photos. This is your daughter Layla, the age progression photos. She swiped to a selfie of herself. The resemblance was undeniable. Tell me about your adoptive parents, Rashid said gently. Kevin and Denise Johnson. He's a postal worker. She's a nurse. They adopted me when I was 6 after I spent months in foster care. They said there was no information about my birth family, that I should be grateful and not dwell on the past. Maya's hands clenched around her coffee cup. But I've always felt incomplete, like there was this huge hole in my identity. Rashid carefully pulled out a manila envelope. Before I show you this, you need to know. If you are my daughter, someone took you. Someone kept you for a year, then abandoned you in a way that erased your memories. Inside were photos. Layla at age 4, smiling on a swing. Layla at 5, blowing out birthday candles, and a USB drive. What's on it? Maya asked. Your voice, Layla's voice, singing in Arabic, recorded 3 weeks before she disappeared. Maya stared at the drive as if it might explode. I don't speak Arabic. I don't remember anything before age 6. Trauma can do that. Rashid leaned forward. But tell me, do you dream in another language? Maya's head snapped up. How did you know that? I've never told anyone. Because you're my daughter, and I've been looking for you for 15 years. The DNA proof. 3 days later, Nadia Hassan sat in Rashid's office with a sealed envelope, the DNA test results. Before I open this, Nadia said carefully, prepare yourself for either outcome. It's her, Rashid said. I know my own daughter. Nadia opened the envelope, read it once, then twice, then looked up with tears in her eyes. 99.9% probability of paternal match. Rashid, you found her. Rashid couldn't speak. 15 years of hope and despair, all converging into this single moment. What now? He finally asked. Now we find out who took her. Because someone kidnapped your daughter, kept her for a year, then dumped her. This was planned destruction of a family. Forbidden truth. 2 weeks later, Maya sat in Rashid's penthouse, surrounded by evidence that was dismantling everything she thought she knew. Your mother and I divorced when you were 3, Rashid explained. Yasmin was American, from Detroit. We'd met in college. For a while we were happy, but the cultural differences, the family pressure, it became toxic. Maya studied a photo of her mother, a black woman with gentle eyes and a warm smile, a stranger who shared her face. What happened to her? Rashid's expression darkened. The custody battle was brutal. She wanted you in Detroit. I wanted you in Chicago. During a supervised exchange, you disappeared. You were supposed to spend the weekend with Yasmin. She never brought you back. You think she kidnapped me? I did at first. But Yasmin was found 3 days later, beaten so badly she was in a coma. When she woke up, she had no memory of what happened. Just kept saying someone took you, that she couldn't stop them. Maya felt her world tilting. Someone took me from my mother and hurt her. The police suspected she was lying, that she'd hidden you and staged the attack, but the investigator always believed Yasmin was a victim too. Rashid pulled out another file. Your mother died 6 years ago. Cancer. She never stopped looking for you. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the file. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to my precious Layla. My darling girl, wherever you are, I hope you're safe. I know someone took you from my arms that day. I still feel the bruises, the terror when I couldn't reach you. She wrote every week, Rashid said softly, even when the cancer got bad, until she couldn't hold a pen. Maya's vision blurred, reading letter after letter, each one a window into her mother's grief. Why can't I remember? She cried. Why can't I remember her, or you? Because someone made sure you wouldn't, Nadia said, entering with a laptop. And I know who. She pulled up police reports and news articles. 3 months after you disappeared, a prominent psychiatrist named Dr. Lawrence Whitmore and his wife were found murdered. The police suspected robbery, but nothing valuable was taken. What does this have to do with Maya? Dr. Whitmore specialized in memory therapy, helping traumatized children suppress painful memories. Look at this. Nadia showed bank records. 2 weeks before Layla disappeared, Dr. Whitmore received $200,000 from an offshore account, then another $300,000 the week after. Maya felt sick. Someone paid him to erase my memories? To make a 5-year-old forget she had a family, forget her name, her language, her entire identity, and when he got cold feet, they eliminated him. Nadia pulled up another document. Your ex-business partner, Rashid, Marcus Chen, the man who tried to force you out of your company right before Layla disappeared. The conspiracy. The revelations unfolded rapidly. Marcus Chen hadn't just been a business partner. He'd been positioning himself to take control of their AI company. The custody battle was his opportunity, Nadia explained. While you were distracted, desperate, spending everything looking for Layla, Marcus was systematically buying out your investors, moving assets, preparing a hostile takeover. But why take my daughter? Because you would have fought him. You were brilliant, driven, but a man destroyed by grief, spending millions on private investigators. Nadia pulled up board meeting minutes. 3 months after Layla disappeared, investors questioned your fitness to lead. 6 months later, they forced you to step down. He didn't just take me to hurt you, Maya said quietly. He took me to break you. He almost succeeded, Rashid admitted. I became obsessed with finding you. By the time I realized what Marcus was doing, he controlled the board. So how did you get it back? A grim smile crossed Rashid's face. I didn't. I built a new company from scratch, took my best people and started over. Marcus got the original company, but without the core team and patents, it collapsed within 3 years. And blamed you, Nadia concluded. Marcus died 4 years ago, heart attack. But before he died, he confessed everything to his brother, Timothy. And Timothy just came forward. She slid a business card across the table. He wants to meet, says his brother left evidence that will answer all your questions. The final confession. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a quick second to tap the like button and subscribe. It truly helps me keep creating these videos for you. Timothy Chen was quiet, almost broken. He met them at his lawyer's office, a sealed box on the table. My brother was dying, Timothy began. Lung cancer. One night he woke up screaming, said he had to tell the truth. He opened the box. Inside were files, recordings, photos. Marcus had hired a woman named Sandra Price, a former social worker who'd lost her license for forging adoption documents. She'd orchestrated everything. Attacking Yasmin, taking 5-year-old Layla, keeping her for a year in a house Marcus owned through a shell corporation. They paid Dr. Whitmore to visit regularly, Timothy explained, his voice breaking, to use therapy techniques that would suppress her memories. They told her her parents had died, that she was starting a new life. Maya couldn't breathe. A year. They kept me prisoner for a year. The plan was international adoption, send you to Europe where you'd never be found. But Dr. Whitmore started to crack, so Marcus killed him and his wife. After that, Sandra panicked, Timothy continued. She was supposed to complete the adoption, but she was afraid the murders would lead back to her. So she dumped Layla in a church parking lot with no identification, no memories, just another abandoned child. He slid a small object across the table, a child's bracelet with Layla engraved in Arabic script. Sandra kept this. She's dying now too, liver disease. Wanted to clear her conscience. When she heard about you finding your daughter, she contacted me. Maya picked up the bracelet with trembling hands. The moment she touched it, a memory flashed, fragmented and terrifying. A dark room, a woman's voice saying, "Forget, forget," being told her name was gone, the feeling of abandonment in that parking lot. "I remember," she whispered. "Oh God, I remember." Rashid pulled her close. "You're safe now. You're home." Rebuilding identity. 6 months later, Layla Al-Mansour, she'd legally reclaimed her birth name but kept Maya as a middle name, sat in intensive therapy, working through recovered memories of kidnapping, captivity, abandonment. The transition had been brutal. She'd taken leave from school, quit her job, spent months processing not just what had happened, but the complicated grief of losing her adoptive parents, even though their family was built on lies. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, her therapist, asked. "Terrified," Layla admitted. "Sandra Price is dying. Part of me wants to scream at her, but another part just wants to understand why." The victim impact statement hearing was closed, just Layla, Rashid, the prosecutor, and Sandra Price, now skeletal from disease, sitting in a wheelchair with oxygen. "I don't expect forgiveness," Sandra whispered, "but I need you to know I thought about you every day for 15 years, wondered if you were okay." "You wondered if I was happy." Layla's voice was ice. "You erased my identity, made me forget my parents, left me in a parking lot like garbage." Sandra began to cry. "I told myself I was doing it for money, that you were young enough to adapt, but the truth is, I was a coward. Marcus said if I didn't help, he'd expose some things I'd done. I was protecting myself and sacrificed you to do it." "You destroyed 2 families, Rashid said. "I know, and I'm dying. The only thing I can offer is the truth and these." She pulled out a small photo album. "During that year, I took photos. I think some part of me knew this was wrong, that someday you'd need to know what happened." The album showed little Layla in various stages of fear and dissociation, and one photo that made them both cry, Layla holding a stuffed camel, the same toy Rashid had given her. "I kept this too," Sandra said, pulling out the worn stuffed animal. "You held it every night, even after the therapy you needed it to sleep." Layla took the camel with shaking hands. More memories flooded back, her father reading to her. The camel's name, Jamal, the song he'd sing. "Numi Numi Yaladi," she whispered, the Arabic lullaby returning. Rashid broke down completely. "You remember. You remember." The Hells Angels. 3 months later, Layla was driving through Detroit, heading to a site visit for the Family Reunification Foundation she and Rashid had started, when her car broke down. She was checking her phone when 3 motorcycles pulled up. Hells Angels, their vests making their affiliation clear. Layla's heart raced. "Car trouble?" one asked, pulling off his helmet. He was older, with gray in his beard but kind eyes. "Yeah, it just died." "Let me look," another said, heading for the hood. As they worked, Layla noticed a patch on the older one's vest. "Missing Children Recovery Unit." "You help find missing children?" she asked. He nodded. "Been doing it 20 years. A lot of people don't know, but Hells Angels chapters do recovery work. Help law enforcement track down abducted kids, all volunteer." "I didn't know that." "Most people don't. They see the vests and assume the worst." He studied her. "You look familiar." "I was a missing child," Layla said. "Found a year ago after 15 years. The men stopped working. 15 years, and you found each other?" "Random chance. My father came into the restaurant where I worked. He recognized me." The older man's eyes filled with tears. "What's your name?" "Layla Al-Mansour, but I was Maya Johnson." "Al-Mansour." He pulled out his phone, showed her an old missing poster with 5-year-old Layla's face. "We worked your case. Back in 2010. I rode with 12 brothers to Chicago to help search. We distributed over 10,000 flyers." Layla's throat tightened. "You looked for me?" "Everyone looked for you. Your case was big news in the Missing Children Network. We worked it for months." He wiped his eyes. "Never thought I'd meet you alive and well." The younger one spoke up. "My daughter was taken 8 years ago. Still haven't found her. Your story gives me hope." "I run a foundation now," Layla said. "We help families separated by kidnapping and illegal adoption. If you want, I can connect you with resources." "You help other people? After what happened?" "Because of what happened. I know what it's like to grow up with a hole in your identity. If I can help one family avoid that pain, then maybe what I went through had meaning." The older biker pulled her into a fierce hug. "Your parents raised you right, both sets of them. They got her car running and refused payment, but the older one gave her his card. Tommy Ironside Patterson, Missing Children Recovery Specialist. You ever need anything, you call. Your family now." As they rode away, Layla cried, not from sadness, but from overwhelming realization that she'd been wrong about so many things, about who could be trusted, about where family could be found. Full circle. 2 years after the reunion, Layla stood in the lobby of the newly opened Al-Mansour Center for Family Reunification in Detroit. The building had once been an abandoned church, fitting, given where she'd been found. The grand opening was attended by hundreds, politicians, nonprofit leaders, families they'd helped. But the moment that mattered most was when Tommy and a dozen Hells Angels walked through the door. "Tommy," she rushed to hug him. "You came." "Wouldn't miss it," brought the brothers. She gave them a tour, family counseling rooms, legal aid office, memory recovery therapy center, and the technology lab where they were developing AI tools to match missing children with families across databases. Your father's brainchild, she explained, facial recognition and genetic probability mapping. Bringing your two worlds together, Tommy observed, tech billionaire father and social justice mother. And the Johnsons, too. Kevin taught me about honest work and humility. Denise taught me to care for others. They made mistakes, terrible ones, but they also gave me values. She led them to a memorial wall with photos of missing children and reunited families. At the center was a photo of 5-year-old Layla and one of Yasmin. In memory of Yasmin al-Mansour, who never stopped fighting for her daughter. Tommy studied the photo. She looks like you. Same fire in the eyes. I wish I'd known her as an adult. Maybe trauma made you stronger, Tommy said gently. More empathetic. You went through hell, but you came out determined to help others. Would you have that drive if you'd had an easy life? I don't know, but I would have had my mother. Fair. But you honor her now with this work. The ceremony began with Rashid giving opening remarks about the 15-year search and the miracle of reunion. Then he introduced Layla. She walked to the podium, looking out at the sea of faces. Families hoping to be reunited, law enforcement, volunteers, survivors. My name is Layla al-Mansour, she began. But for 15 years, I was Maya Johnson. For 15 years, I lived a life built on lies and trauma, not knowing who I was. Today, I stand as both Layla and Maya, because I've learned that identity isn't about choosing one truth over another. It's about integrating all the pieces into something whole. She looked at Rashid, who was crying. My father never gave up hope, even when everyone said I was probably dead, even when it cost. Him, his business, and his health, he kept searching. That kind of love doesn't quit. Then she gestured to Yasmin's photo. My mother died never knowing I was safe, but she left me letters full of love, teaching me that even in darkness, hope matters, that fighting for what's right matters, that every child deserves to know where they come from. Her voice grew stronger. This center exists because of what happened to me, because someone decided destroying my family was worth money, because someone else decided erasing a child's identity was acceptable, because a system failed to protect a 5-year-old girl. But this center also exists because of love, because my father never stopped searching, because strangers, including biker society often judges unfairly, spent their own time and money looking for a lost child they'd never met. Because every person who distributes a missing child flyer, who shares a post, who refuses to look away, they're all part of the solution. The audience hung on every word. We've helped reunite 43 families in the past year, 43 children who now know where they come from, but there are thousands more. And we're going to find them. She held up a tablet. This technology has already identified 12 potential matches human investigators missed. 12 families who might be reunited because we refuse to accept that some children are just lost forever. Tommy and his brothers began clapping, and soon the entire room erupted. After the ceremony, people surrounded Layla wanting to share their stories. A mother whose son had been taken to Yemen, a father whose daughter had been trafficked and recovered, a young woman searching for her birth family. To each one, Layla offered hope, resources, and understanding. She knew what it felt like to be lost, and she knew what it took to find your way home. The legacy. 5 years after the reunion, the foundation had expanded to 7 cities and helped reunite over 200 families. Layla, now 26 and completing her graduate degree, stood giving a presentation to newly trained family advocates. Every family's story is unique, she told them. Some reunifications are joyful, others are complicated by trauma and time. Your job isn't to create fairy tale endings, it's to facilitate truth and provide support for whatever comes next. After the presentation, a young woman approached nervously. Ms. Al-Mansour, I'm Emma Rodriguez. I've been following your work because I think my little sister might have been illegally adopted. She disappeared during a custody battle 8 years ago. Layla's heart clenched with recognition. This was why she did this work. For every Emma, every family still searching. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a chair. As Emma told her story, Layla saw herself 5 years earlier. lost and confused, holding puzzle pieces that didn't fit until someone helped her see the bigger picture. "Here's what we're going to do," Layla said. "We're going to run her information through our database, use facial recognition to compare her childhood photos, and connect you with our legal team." "Do you think we'll find her?" Emma asked, tears in her eyes. Layla thought about the odds against her own reunion, about the million things that had to align perfectly. "I think," she said carefully, "that as long as you keep looking, there's hope. And hope is what keeps families together, even when they're apart." Emma left with resources and a follow-up appointment. Layla watched her go, then turned back to her office where dozens more case files waited. On her desk were 2 photos. One of 5-year-old Layla with Rashid and Yasmin, taken before the kidnapping. The other of present-day Layla surrounded by her expanded family, biological, adoptive, and chosen. Between those 2 photos was a journey of pain, loss, survival, and ultimately healing. Not the easy healing of forgetting, but the hard healing of integration, of taking broken pieces and building something new and strong. Her phone rang. A detective from Phoenix with a potential lead. Layla answered, already pulling up files, ready to help another family find their way home. Because that's what she did now. She took the worst thing that had ever happened to her and transformed it into purpose. She turned her pain into a roadmap for others, navigating similar darkness. And every time they reunited a family, every time a lost child found their way home, every time truth prevailed over lies and love prevailed over fear, that was her mother's legacy living on. That was her father's determination bearing fruit. That was her own resilience proving that even the deepest wounds can heal. The little girl in those therapy videos, fighting desperately to remember who she was, she had won. She'd found her way back to herself, and now she was helping others do the same. That was her story. Not a story of victimhood, but of victory. Not a story of loss, but of reclamation. Not a story of broken identity, but of identity built stronger from the breaking. And it wasn't over. As long as there were families separated by lies and cruelty, as long as there were children growing up not knowing where they came from, as long as there were parents searching frantically for their lost babies, her work would continue. Because Layla Al-Mansour, once Maya Johnson, once a lost little girl with no name and no memory, had found her purpose in the wreckage of her own story. And that purpose was bringing other lost children home.